discussion with me today, and also with us on stage we have some of the other members of the Search. Also allow me to welcome the audience. I see some familiar faces that I've seen from some faces from the past, from the other platforms. I welcome you all. Our guest today is not a stranger to the Search. I think he's one of one of the godfathers, so to speak, when it comes to activism and when it comes to being the voice of the people who are perhaps contrarians and their voices are not being heard enough. So I think he needs no real introduction, but nonetheless, we'll sort of present him to you formally. Choma, allow you to come in just before we begin.
All right, thank you very much, Solomon. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mr. Shori. It's so good to have you here. I watched a bit of your session on Instagram, and I would say that was wonderful, and it's great that you were able to still join us in spite of a session you just finished up. So thank you very much for joining. And again, today's conversation is going to be in-depth like it always is. And we're not going to just be speaking to people here. We're going to be speaking with one another, and that's why it's a conversation. So at some point, would open up the room for engagement. And if you are used to the Search, you know that this is one of its essential essence. So we get to hear from you. But one thing I would like to say is that for anybody that's contributing, asking a question, or anything of that sort, please keep it civil and let's hold some level of decorum around here. So again, my name is Chioma Otie, and I work in media and communications. And like Solomon said, I will be co-moderating this session with him this evening. It's such an honor. So I think that even though he had already said that Mr. Shawari does not need any introduction, but would like to just hear from you because some people do not know you. I was speaking to someone yesterday evening to tell her that I'm going to be moderating a session today with Mr. Shawari, and she's like, who is that? And I'm like, are you living under the rock? So I know that some people would like to hear from you directly. Let's meet you. So please introduce yourself. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Chuma, and the rest of the Search team. My name is Omoyele Shore. I'm a Nigerian citizen and done a lot of, maybe a few things. Been a publisher, teacher, an activist. And, the most difficult to introduce is that I'm also now a partisan political activist, which means that I have I run on the platform of a political party known as the African Action Congress as a presidential candidate. I ran first in 2019 and subsequently 2023, and now in 2027 I'm the candidate of the same political party. The only political party I've ever joined in my life.
Thank you, Mr. Shori. So look, let me just give a little bit of an outline on what the structure of the show will look like today. The first half an hour will be just myself and Shoma posing our questions on the topic. After which we'll allow members who are joining us listening in the audience to also come in and participate. Let me just reiterate what Shoma has already outlined. The engagement must be civil. There's a zero tolerance policy on disrespect, first and foremost towards our guest, but of course also towards our moderator and towards the platform. So we'll be ensuring that the engagement will be civil at all times. However, people are free to share their opinion, and we do not seek to over-police your opinion as long as you're able to share it respectfully. Without further ado, let's begin. And before I bring Chioma in to start with some sort of questions we prepared, Mr. Ashori, with regards to the current situation, and I know that the party that you've been representing, you've been very sort of loyal to that platform for a long time now. The question I have for you before we go into the topic is, what keeps you, what gives you this sort of, the energy to continue down this path? And what gives you this belief that, this is the right kind of option for you, given the current landscape?
Well, I don't think I have one track attitude to resolving Nigeria's problem. What I mean is that yes, I am engaging and involved in politicking. That is, I'm a member of a political party and now a candidate. But largely, and I never miss word in saying this, that I'm also a believer in the revolution. That until the people of Nigeria rise up collectively, resiliently, and in unity or in unison, we will not, quite honestly, be able to solve so many of our problems because a lot of these problems require revolutionary interventions, and there are. But my attitude has been that is either we resolve this by the ballot, which has to be a revolutionary balloting process, or at the barricade, which is boots on the ground. So that's been my position since I got involved in activism as far back as probably 1990, around 1989 and 1990 when I became a freshman at the University of Lagos.
All right, lovely response. Thank you very much for that. And that already sets the floor for the conversation that we'll be having. And like you know, today's topic is pathways to transformative governance in Nigeria. And piggying back on what you said in response to Solomon's question, saying that you don't have a one-track attitude to Nigeria's problems or governance, I would like to know what are the very critical and may I even use the word transformative pathways to actually get to a state of solemn governance where we get to a point where everyone and everything seems to be working. What are strategies beyond the ballots that you talked about? Can you give us several pathways that you think we can arrive at that point?
Well, I believe that first it's a process that brings about a completely new set of leaders. Without changing the players, we can't change this game. It's impossible, and that has to be completely driven by a set of visionary individuals who are mission driven and who are very courageous. Because this is going to involve a lot of risk, and when we talk about risk, I know what it takes because I take a lot of risk. And anybody who is going into this must be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. So, and as soon as we create the objective conditions for brand new leadership, people who definitely understand that this is about sacrifice, about making the country work, both for the Nigerian people and the continent of Africa, where there's a lot of expectation, by the way, that Nigeria will get it right. Then you won't be surprised that we can start discussing the nuts and bolts of it. And what is the nuts and bolts of it is that there are the things we have to do almost at once to start resetting Nigeria, to getting it right by way of energy, power, industrialization, getting our healthcare in order, education, massive infusion of investment, change of curriculum. For me, one of the things that needs to happen almost immediately is the change of the Nigerian constitution, because that wasn't even negotiable. It wasn't made for the Nigerian people. It didn't contain the aspiration of Nigerian people. It's not a live document. It's a dead document. And everywhere you hear about constitutions around the world, they always describe it in form of a live document. Nigerian constitution is a dead document. It was thrown at the Nigerian people the way a judge would throw a book at somebody they are sentenced to life imprisonment when they were living, and they were very happy that they were living. So, but that's just some of it. There are some things that we talk about in general politically in Nigeria that I feel like very pedestrian. I hate that in 2026 we are still discussing how to build schools, how to build roads, and then provide water. I like to stay on the big picture of what could make the country work, because some of it is also very, very deeply global. Because there are global dynamics that affect whether countries succeed or don't succeed. And you and I, anybody who understands how the world works will tell you that. So, but first is to get it right by way of the change of the players. And that is why I was saying earlier that is the most important, and that one has to be super solid, and it's going to involve a lot of powerful engagement and involvement. Very, very, very tough decisions to be made in that regard, because if we are just hoping that it will give us free and fair election, we're just scratching the surface. We are placing band-aids on a wound that we've already identified to be cancerous.
All right, brilliant response. And I dare say that I don't think that some of the strategies have not, in one way or the other, tried to be implemented, but there's been certain blockages and impediments to these being successfully done. So what different strategy do you think that is not being implemented that should be brought in to make this possible?
Well, it's up to the people, right? I often describe Nigeria, the Nigerian political system or governance structures, if there is anything you can call governance here, as almost like what the apartheid regime was in South Africa. And there was that constant rejection by those who were hemmed into a corner, those who were isolated, those who were ostracized and self-franchised to fight through the ticket. And that spirit has not come on every Nigerian to see that we have a system to get rid of, and without getting rid of that system, we're not going to be able to touch, let me use the word, because this Sunday, the promised land, we won't be able to get to the promised land. So to have policy decisions, for instance, with people who are deaf and dumb, I'm sorry to use that because of people who are here with us who might have special conditions. I'm not trying to insult you, but I'm just using that generally. People who cannot reason, people who don't even have the capacity to process conversations about development. You are wasting your time, right? So that's why I keep talking about a new set of players, a brand new team, a brand new situation, a brand new objective condition. And it is from there that we can play the game, and discuss policy and discuss progress, and talk about shared prosperity. Without those obstacles being removed, then we're wasting our time. And how do we remove the obstacle? Through a revolutionary intervention, either by the ballots or through the streets, by putting boots on the ground. I don't have any illusion about this, that we cannot just wish away this terrible situation and condition we find ourselves and say, well, maybe hopefully if we elect the same people, the people who got us here, maybe, they will just change their mind. It's never happened in any country before that bad people or bad leaders produce good results.
Okay, let's try and sort of get to the crux of the matter there, right? And be specific about this topic. So we're using the word revolution, but I'd like you to articulate what that looks like for you. And also, I think, what you mentioned earlier about some of those basic infrastructural needs that frustrate you, that they're still a topic. I mean, clearly, if you want to build a successful nation, that's one of the pillars that you need to ensure is working.
Yes.
Right. And clearly it's not working right now. So what is your view on how to get that working? And I know you mentioned it as a frustration, but how do we get that working? And what does a revolution look like for you?
Well, so just to answer your question about frustration, I'm not the only person who's frustrated about this. It's not something that's peculiar to Showore. It's something that applies across board to you, me, anybody. It doesn't matter even if today you are not in Nigeria, but as long as somehow something ties you back here, it would affect you. It will be getting to you wherever you may be. But for me, what the revolution is for me, it has to be some kind of uprising. It's not even some kind of, there has to be an uprising. A total, immediate, succinct, and irreversible rejection of this old order. The question that is always the big elephant in the room for a lot of people who ask me this question is, how do you want to achieve it? Do you have weapons? Do you want to kill people? And I said, no, we don't need to kill people. Because the people who are holding us to ransom, we can place them in a can, and just cock it close, put them aside, not killing them, and find brand new people who can take this country to glory, from glory to glory. And I know they exist, but we can't find them as long as we're covered up in this maze of people whose only desire is to keep the country the way it is, because of their selfish interests, because of their greed, because of their wickedness. And genuinely, and I mean this, a lot of them have both mental and intellectual limitations anyway, that even if they meant good, because I've found conversations that say some of these leaders are not bad people. They're not bad, but it's just that they are surrounded by bad people. The truth is that if you are good, you can't be surrounded by bad people perpetually and you don't do anything about it. So that revolutionary process is in two ways. One, an immediate uprising that doesn't take too long. I'm not looking for war or strife, because already we are at war anyways. That's succinct, direct, and short. And following that is the kind of visionary leadership that we lead the country, by recruiting people who are competent, people who are willing to offer sacrifices, and people who are bound everywhere, who want this country to work. Some of them have left, who want to come back home and make it work. Now, some people might say it's not that simple. Oh yeah, of course I know, because I have been on the very hard part of trying to make Nigeria better. So the simpler part, the most difficult part I've been through my entire life, 36 years now, of getting whacked by security agents, getting sent to prison, judges pronouncing me, sentenced without trial, all kinds of things. I've been on the hard side of it, so it can't be worse than this. But I must also let you understand that some of these issues have historical precedent that have to be dealt with, but they're not difficult to deal with as long as you come to a point where you are able to find balance and you find unity among the oppressed. I'm using the word advisedly, among the oppressed, who have said enough is enough. We don't want this anymore. And then we know who our friends are and we know who our enemies are, even though it's not going to be perpetually me versus you, because that's not public policy. And then we can then move past that and go to policy and go to implementing things that will work, fighting corruption, saving money for ourselves, having an economic system that is robustly understanding of the dynamics of economics, not, Adam Smith alone, but the fact that economies across the world have started evolving in different models and systems as the world has also evolved technologically, culturally, and the population, have changed, means of productions have changed, goods and services have changed names and meaning, such that there are now, brand new economic opportunities that we're not even exploring. And we are stuck with the brown and black economy, which is buying and selling crude, and then stealing the proceeds and letting some drop off for the masses. That's where we're stuck. So, I hope you get my point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think I share those sentiments around the sort of the crude and the limitations that are that presents. So let me ask you. I mean, because I think you have your I guess your vision for the country is one where everybody would like to see that come to pass. But of course, it's easier said than done, as you've just pointed out.
That's right.
So the question I'll ask is, among the with the current political landscape, among the current stakeholders, who are the people that Nigerians can trust? Who do you think can help achieve this vision? who are the current sort of crop that we can consider people that are upright and capable and competent enough to get behind. Because I think it's going to take more than one individual to achieve this revolution that you're talking about. So, who are some of the sort of visible stakeholders that we can look at and say, okay, these are good examples, and these are people we can get behind?
One of the things one of the terminologies that kind of put me off about Nigeria is stakeholders, because the moment we start using those words, I understand what we're saying. We're already attributing to the people who wear the biggest clothes, who drive the biggest cars, and that has the littlest of ideas as our stakeholders. I, for instance, was able to put together a political party since 2018, right? And what that did for me, as somebody who was coming from the US after having been gone for some 20 years, was that it just exposed me to what's going on politically in the country. In fact, before we set up the political party known as the African Action Congress, I was of the opinion that, going by the kind of brilliant ideas I thought I had, and the fact that I want the country to work, and I love freedom, and I thought that some of these stakeholders, I should like to call them, that's aphorism for political people, really needs or want somebody to change the country. So there were over 80 political parties when I arrived in Nigeria in 2017, 2018. And I was saying to myself, oh, this is going to be a walkover. I'm just going to look at their manifestos and approach the chairman of the party, any party I want. They should be able to accept me. I went around about 50 political parties. Either they will ask me for money, or they don't have any manifesto. Some of them don't even have constitution. Some of them have the same constitution and manifesto copied from each other. And I was like, oh, is this what I walked into? It felt like I just walked into a landmine. So I was confronted with two options. First was to just go back to the US and go be with my family, or keep on doing what I know how to do best. That time I was publishing, and I was doing very well as a publisher of one of the prominent news platforms in Nigeria. But I thought to myself, why don't I explore one more opportunity, create my own platform. And that was how we started with a group called Take It Back, which was into political party. And then we started, somebody told us that we could apply for, they were still registering political parties, we could apply, and we applied. And AAC became a political party. And I ran on the platform of the AAC. Initially, well received, but I saw that, some of my expectations were misplaced. And I gave you this background so that you can understand my next answer about the stakeholders. You see, the people they call stakeholders in Nigeria are people who ran Nigeria to where it is today. And if you look at the platforms and all the presidential candidates, apart from myself and a few others probably you never heard about before because there are a bunch of smaller parties, no one of them haven't had an opportunity to do and present a different alternative and opportunity for the people.
If it's just me, Shelma, but I can't. Okay, we've got it back.
Yes. So only myself.
Just to be clear, then.
Yeah.
So people like Peter Obi. Are
well, in fact, I was going to say that I could almost predict that that's what you were going to say, because I get a question all the time. But yeah. I'm just telling you that I came to this conclusion knowing all of them. I've been opportunity to know a lot of them when I was a journalist, moonlighting as a journalist and a publisher. And I had looked at their records, and I kept asking myself, who, for God's sake, got Nigeria into the hands of these people, whether as, national leaders, senators, governors. They just, maybe my standards are just too high, but I don't even think so, because I'm still looking for basic things. I'm still looking for schools that work. roads that are completed that can last. Still looking for hospitals that were built that lasted, 2 years, 4 years of the standards that I walk into. Even when I go to Ghana, none of them provided that, none. So it's then become, in my view, the strategy for some of you to keep dragging us back to them. But I'm sorry, I just don't find any one of them to meet my standard for leadership. Yes.
So to be clear, there is nobody that is seen as a political figure that you consider capable and viable.
Well, the political figures that you are referring to, no, I don't consider any one of them to be capable.
Okay,
viable.
so let me go back to my question then.
Yes.
Who apart from you?
Plenty of, there are plenty of people. All right.
Let's have some names that we can maybe.
If we sit here mentioning names, we'll be here forever. But I have met a lot of.
Just give me three.
No,
give me three.
Wait, calm
give me
down.
three.
Why don't you just calm down? Why don't you just calm down? I have met plenty of Nigerians. Let me tell you, if anybody wins as president of Nigeria today, right, he has the opportunity to appoint for himself. I mean, while you're in power for 4 years, over 10,000 people. So why would I be giving you three? Maybe it's a card I want to keep to my chest, but there are a lot of Nigerians who are competent, who have vision, who are mission-driven, who have the intellectual capacity to run a country, but they need a bandwidth where they can make these changes happen, and that's what we're here to do. Not three people, We're talking about thousands and thousands of people, engineers, doctors, teachers, and very competent professionals who can make things work. But these people you're referring to, if they could, or they have the capacity to change Nigeria, some of them would have. Majority of them had the opportunity to be in power for 8 years. I know of one, that's the current Peter Obi's deputy, Kwakwanso. Kwakwanso has been in power since 1999 or even beyond. He was once Minister of Defense, he was PAMSEC, he was governor for 8 years, he was senator. They didn't do jack. But we keep calling them stakeholders. Maybe they are holding the stick, against our, against our wrist, they're not stakeholders, not in my own word.
All right. Well, I'd like to take it that from your response, you mean that most of these people who I want to assume were competent or are competent are not the final solution to the problems that we're experiencing.
But if you come with assumption to interview me, then maybe the interview was unnecessary in the first place.
Okay, so in your own opinion, they are not competent, and I want to.
It's not my opinion. It's see, the evidence of their competence is the Nigeria of today. Your roads, your hospitals, your schools, your food security, your energy structure. Does it look to you like this was run by competent people in the last since independence, 1960? I'm just asking because when you opened this conversation, you said it's an interactive engagement. Does this look like a place governed by competent people since you were born? And I'm not asking you your age, please. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying, since you've been conscious that does this look like a place run by competent people? If you look at the indices of competence, do you have any one of them? You can even talk about the ones you know, the ones you are promoting, or the ones you believe in. Tell me where they ran their states, or the country, or their local government, or laws that they made that were revolutionary laws, and say, oh my God, this senator made this law. Since he made the law, not everything has changed. Or, you say this governor governed, oh my God, that's the place I spent my last vacation and I can't skip, that's where my kids are going to school. Do you have anywhere in Nigeria that exists in that realm?
Okay, so now to my question exactly. Earlier in your response, you mentioned getting competent people, recruiting competent people, and all of that. And I would say that even if we have competent people in power, do you think that is going to get us to that point of transformative governance? Because I want to look at it from something a bit higher, and that is about structures and institutions.
But
Don't you think that?
who do you think built structures and institutions? Competent people. Structures don't come from structures don't drop from the sky. You have to have competent people first. You have to have visionary people first, who then build and nurture competent structures that last. But if your argument is that you can find amongst the people you call stakeholders, you've mentioned one of them, your favorite. If your argument is that, can you also point to, everlasting structures that these people built wherever they found themselves when they had the opportunity? And in terms of asking me if I can find people, I already know who to work with. This is my third time running as a presidential candidate. In 2018 and 2019, I traveled around the world. I'm not talking about just a few countries around Africa. I went as far as Australia, and if there's anybody in Australia here today that can bear me witness, I was in Brisbane, Sydney. I came all the way back to Perth. I went to Canada. I went to South Africa. I met Nigerians in all these places. I went to the UK. I went to Italy, Spain. I went to Germany. So it wasn't just running as a Nigerian candidate. I was running on behalf of Nigerians. It was for me, I was headhunting just as I was running for president, because I don't want to be president who will come and tell you that, oh, I wasn't prepared for this, like Buhari or Tinubu. No, I didn't want to be a president like that. I'd already done my homework. I had reached out to people. I was having communications with whomever I think I needed. If the opportunity came today, I'm going to form the cabinet right there. I already knew who the chief of staff was, who the minister of agriculture was, who would be, and who the police chief would be. I was doing the research myself, and with a number of young persons that were working with me, brilliant people. So they exist, lots and lots of them. But I think this idea of pigeonholing conversations to just go back to the failures that came to define the country can be very frustrating, even when we're having what we decide is going to be an open-minded conversation. Because this conversation is so quick to dovetail into, oh, I know some people, and why are you not working with them? No, I don't think we should. I don't think I want to be part of a conversation that pigeonholes me. So, I know all of them, and I've said it. I'm not here to even come and express it again to you. You know my public position about any Nigerian leader who's been a governor, who's been president, vice president, senator, House of Rep member. You know my position about them, I would imagine, before now.
Okay, so just so that we don't stress this so much, and that's to say that from your last sentences that you don't see the possibility of getting on the table to have conversations with some of these people. Of course, there are people you have said that are competent, that run smaller parties, that we probably do not even know about. Does that mean that you are open to collaborating and sitting and having conversations on how to further and build this country even better?
Oh, I hold conversations every day. I'm going to ask a lot of these young people who are activists. I meet with them all the time without announcing it. We have conversation, but where I disagree with some of them is where they're wrongly headed. And, sometimes they don't agree with me, but later they come back and say, oh my God, how did you know these things? You're right about them, but some of them can't take back their words because it's a difficult thing to do. They don't want to lose their pride and panache, so they stick to the lie they've already presented in the public. I'm very open-minded. I meet with a lot of people regularly to discuss Nigeria's progress. I put aside my differences to hold hands with people when we have to confront the common enemy. But where some of you have problem is that you don't accept that some of the common enemies of the public are the real common enemies, because they're your favorites. And I don't have favorites. The only people who are my favorites are people who are willing to make Nigeria work.
Okay, I mean, let me just come back in if you don't mind, Chama. Look, first things first, let me just clear up any doubt that people may have with regards to our allegiances. This is a non-partisan space. If there's an assumption that, there are so-called quote-unquote favorites, rest assured, there are no favorites as far as I'm concerned. Although maybe some of my friends, they have favorites, with Ms. Ashore's initials. But nonetheless, the platform itself is there's non-partisan. So
let me also give you this caveat. You are at liberty. Every one of us are at liberty to have our favorites, no matter who the person is. So there's nothing wrong with you having a favorite. But when it comes to having public conversations like this, I just would like for us to be clear that I'm here to talk about myself and things I believe could be done, and I'm not usually the person who accepts to be pigeonholed or put in a box on behalf of some interests or persons or politicians, because I know them. I do not need to be told. I've had meetings with so many of them. I probably have met with some of them more frequently than some of you have, publicly, some privately. As some of them as far back as when I was in the university. I knew them. And we're talking about 30 years ago. So nothing wrong with having favorites. I just want to clear that up as well.
Sure. So look, I think, for me, the question that keeps springing up in my mind is that, look, Mr. Ashore believes he is competent. He believes he knows competent people. And well within his rights not to share that, to be fair, because perhaps that's part of your intellectual property in terms of how you plan to bring about the change. However, I mean, the question is, what is the blocker for these competent people to be able to gain, meaningful ground in the political landscape so that they can start to gain the sort of traction that's needed in order to bring about the change that you're talking about?
I think one of it is that upon realizing that we can't clear the obstacles of the stakeholders, I like to keep referring to them, we had created our own political platform, right? I will agree with you that we are up against very powerful interests, money bags, people who have created, structures of criminality in the country. They have very powerful interests within the socio-political class. They have connections with military and the security forces, and they can pretty much stand in your way. And that's what they have been doing their entire life. That's been their career. But what I'm saying is that I've also taken very hard and difficult decisions, and almost made myself a sacrificial lamb to open the democratic space since I was conscious enough. And I believe that as soon as that space is created by our revolutionary engagement, as it is now, you will find out that a lot of people will come out of the woodworks. I gave an example to a group I met a few months ago. They invited me, same question, why not working with the competent people? Some of them, they don't even call them competent. They say they are lesser evils. Same adjective. And I looked in the room. We're talking about over maybe almost 150 young people. And I said to them, are you saying in this country, Nigeria of today, the people in this room cannot govern Nigeria properly? And if a needle dropped, you will hear it. I think it just occurred to them when I said it to them that, maybe we are the one who should have stood up and saved our country. Because that's the truth. I'm listening to you, I think Solomon, is that Baron, right? And brilliant presentation, whoever was speaking anyways. Brilliant presentation, you're coming out.
That's me, so.
Solomon, you're coming out clean, and you're not speaking to AI, right? You're articulating, you're questioning, you seem to have, I won't say you have ideas of your own as well. And I'm going to have to be arguing whether you are better than Atiku in my mind. There's something that's wrong with me because I've stood in front of Atiku before and it took him like 40 seconds before he could get his act together to even say a word. Part of it, probably old age, lack of exposure, and I'm using Atiku because I don't want to use your favorite. But I've been beside Tinubu before, and it took him just less than 2 minutes before he fell asleep at a meeting that lasted for an hour or more. So I'm you saying, what is wrong with the young people of Nigeria having ambition, like to be aggressively ambitious about? It doesn't. When I say young people, I'm not talking about age because we're just talking about demographic that we are always referring to. Like 70% of us are between the age of 35 and 45. I'm 55, but I don't even consider. I'm no longer in that demography anymore. But that's our problem. Our problem is that we seem to be stuck with old people. Whereas I always say I don't have a problem with old people, I have a problem with old ideas, people with old ideas. Normally, we should be talking about a country of vibrant young people or this young population that is governed by young ideas. And the difference would have been clear in the way this country is governed. Last week, Rotimi Amechi granted an interview I watched. I listened to it. And he was saying that he went to see Buhari one day. He said, I want to see you. I want to see us former President Muhammadu Buhari, who he worked with for 8 years. And he said, when he saw him, he said, Mr. President, people are complaining about that government. And they said, the person they voted for is not the person they have. And he said, look, Amechi, Buhari of 1983 is different. I didn't have a parliament at that time. There's a parliament now. I was young at that time. I'm old now. And he said he concluded at that point that Buhari was overwhelmed and Nigeria was in trouble. But he still stuck around because he saw Buhari as a stakeholder. And stuck around. And if you look at the 8 years that Buhari was president of Nigeria, it was the 8 years of the locust 8 from our lives. And you can say that of all these incompetent people who have been running the country at various levels. At various levels. So that's the problem, is that we're not thinking progressively about how to get out of this. We are thinking about, how to navigate the time swap, this cocoon into, that we found ourselves. How not to get out of it, how not to break it, but how to survive within it. But I think outside of that box. I think that this needs to be completely demolished.
That's clear.
Yes.
Yeah, that's clear.
And that
That's
the
clear.
new set of players, and that when the opportunities present itself, in fact, there are some players that you don't even need to invite. They will just come on their own. And you just find out different sectors of the economy or the country are evolving in the most powerful way that you have never imagined before.
Yeah, that's clear, and thank you for the kind compliments. Although I'm not sure being compared to Atiku is something I should be happy.
Well, I don't even know you, but I'm just listening to you, and you have such a great voice, and I have no doubt that there's intellect behind it.
Thank you. Look, so before I bring in people from the audience, the final thing from me. One of my colleagues here on the surge, Ruthie, she says, I don't trust that Showore. I think he's disingenuous. Another one is saying, don't mind Showore, he's cashing out. He's just saying what he's saying. Really what he's doing is cashing out.
Yeah.
How do you respond to those sort of judgments? Because I think it's perhaps one that's shared by many.
Well, there's no one who is in my position who don't get this kind of pushbacks, and it is because a lot of people also can't understand why there's a Shore in my position who's got all the opportunities in this world to live a better life, who chose to come and be going to prison and get beaten up and get tortured by police. There are some people who say this because if they found themselves in my position, that's exactly what they would do. They'll be cashing out. And there are plenty of them like that. Some of it is also Nigerian mentality. That people tend to put you in the position that they would have been if they were in your shoes. But I'm here, who I think amongst people of my age, I've lived a more public life than most people my age. You knew where I went to school. You knew when I traveled abroad, when I came back, what I was doing transparently, where I made money from, and what I have and what I don't have. Most of them know that. So to just then throw, it at you that is just cashing out. Some of it is banter. Some of it comes from a place of genuine confusion. They're just confused that why would anybody do this? Why would anybody put themselves in harm's way? Because it's what they can't do and what they would never do. So it's just how some Nigerians are. But I also think a lot of people genuinely understand who I am. But if you don't do or say what they want, that is how they throw tantrums at you. Oh, I don't think it's genuine, But when you ask them, why do you say this? They can never tell you why. It's just some of them will say it's their gut feeling, But I can't help those. I can only be myself. I can only present to you who I am and who I've been and how I want to see my future and my country and your future and those of your children look like in the future. That's all I can tell you.
All right, thank you for that. So we're going to open up the room now for other members of the audience to engage with our guests for today. Like I said earlier, it's not going to be all about us throwing things at you and talking at you. We want to have this very interactive. So if you want to ask a question, you want to have your contribution shared, or just say something, air your thoughts here, please feel free to indicate so that you can be brought up here to share your thoughts, and then we can continue with the conversation, because I have a few other questions that I would still like to ask Mr. Showry, but of course we want to hear from you. So please indicate, speak. Let's hear from you.
So I can see we have a Keys for Lou. Are you there? I'm also waiting for him. Baron, do you have a question for us?
Oh, my brother Solomon, thank you very much. It's nice to see you, Mr. Showry. It's been a while, last election rather. My question is this. If you became Nigeria's president today, what are the first 3 executive actions you would take as regarding the security, economy, and basic Nigerian politics? What are the first 3 executive actions you would take? Thank you very much.
I'll repeat it here again for those who may not have heard it before. That I'm not going to take 3 executive actions. I'm going to start with addressing all the issues afflicting Nigeria individually and collectively at once. Reason being that there is no one action that can put Nigeria on the right path. So if you get it right in the area of energy, power supply, which is something I'm in love with, I would admit that, you have to also get it right on the side of security almost the same day. Otherwise, all your electricity will be stolen by lack of security or destroyed or sabotage, and you have to also get it right by providing jobs and making the opportunities available. You have to invest in education so that you start training the same generation that will keep all these things going as well immediately. You have to work on wages and salaries so that people don't starve to death. You have to start building hospitals on that day and bringing technology to bear, in making sure that all of these are sustainable as well, and that your country becomes self-sufficient. And I have looked at the whole basket of it, even though Nigeria is a basket case, but there are things you can start doing on day one, more than three. For instance, in the area of security, is to say to yourself, look, you want to develop a strategy that's having an immediate solution to security, and that is why I talk about technology. You know that very controversial thing you heard that I said a drone will be my Minister of Defense. What I mean by that is how much technology you can bring to bear on day one to ensure that technology is a major driver of your security architecture, and that you rely less on bureaucracy and all these people who are more interested in how many people visit the Minister of Defense in his office per day than how many people get rescued. You know, yesterday I was watching a TV show, not the TV news, they're talking about the World Cup, and in Mexico, of all places, they already have these robot dogs who can walk around and detect if, will look at you, take a picture of you, and detect if you are a wanted criminal or not. There are some that can sniff bomb. I'm talking about robots. We're not talking about dogs. We're talking about live dogs. So, and these are things that are, and some of them are in the open market. But if you ask these people to go and buy them, they will either not buy it or they buy the inferior ones. And so I'm giving you this because we're talking about a spectrum of actions that can start to put the nation together. You know, in terms of security, there's medium and long-term solutions to security. Because I am of the firm belief that the whole security situation will not be resolved until people can find jobs, until you pay pension, pensioners when they finish, until the country is on the right economic development path. Otherwise, if you like, you can buy all the guns in the world. China used to have a lot of guns. It didn't work until they started using people with gumption.
Thank you. Mardia, I think we had you up next. Over to the other speakers.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Shore, for always coming on this platform and granting it interviews and just making impact to our conversation all the time. Having said that, I want to get your take on what's happening in the political landscape pre-election year. Specifically, a lot of people, form alliances, break alliances, jump from one political party to the other. I'm asking this because you touched on that earlier, and I just want a clarification on how this affects trust and election process in the country. When we have people moving from one political party to the other, and we have people who are supporters of these individuals, and having political parties in Nigeria with their ideologies, or the wrong or good ideologies, which of course you mentioned earlier, how does it affect politics, elections, and everything in between in the Nigerian political landscape?
When it comes to politics, political parties are the drivers of the political process, especially where you don't have independent candidacy. Even where there is independent candidacy, you will still have some kind of people who support you who are members of your caucus. Still political, it's partisanship. So what you find in Nigeria is that there's zero ideology, there's zero conviction, and the people who run the process are the same. They understand each other. People like me are the outliers. And I say this so that you know that I've been involved in the political party system for at least now 8 years. And I attend parties with political parties. I attend meetings with political parties, leaders. And I wish that Nigerians can watch political party leaders speak at meetings. You will cry. There's nothing in their delivery. There's nothing in their conviction. There's nothing in their ideology that's interested in. They don't discuss anything about Nigeria. They discuss themselves. They discuss the next election. They discuss what is in it for us. Some of them are even praising INEC, even when INEC is rigging election. And some of them will ask you to shut up. One almost beat me up at an INEC meeting because I said the INEC chairman is going to rig election. It's like, because some of the political party leaders are also contractors to the government and INEC. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you have real ideology if you have political parties. That's why it's difficult. It's not difficult for people to jump ship overnight, And the African National Congress has been the only political party that have remained in the same ideological place from when it was created. Even when they hijacked it from us, they couldn't change the ideological leaning of the party until we got the party back. So that's the truth. But here is another issue. There's another issue. The Nigerian people, in large numbers, who are supposed to join up with political, ideologically great political parties, are not interested in politics. A lot of people, a lot of young Nigerians, are not even content. Even when they made a law that says not too young to run, it did not produce any. It didn't produce many young people. Because do you know why? The average Nigerian youth is not aspiring to become a president. Is not aspiring to become a governor. Is not aspiring to become a House of Rep member. Is aspiring to become a senior assistant to somebody or special assistant to somebody. And the moment you have those ambitious limitations or limitations in ambitions, then the vacuum created will be, because nature abhors a vacuum, will be taken by the old people or people without ideas. Go on, just do a little research and look at your state governors from the states you come from. It's usually the dread in that state that's the governor. Look at your senators, dreads. Look at your House of Rep members, dreads. The last person, the thug, the guy who didn't go to school, the guy who failed when you were in school. So two people, they do. I mean, what most people do is just sit down there and want to become an advisor. Even the National Association of Nigerian Students president has 32 advisors of his fellow colleagues because he knows that's their ambition. So he threw the red meat to them. It's very sad, but it is a truth we must tell ourselves, that until enough people boldly take that position, that power is not given, it has to be taken, and great people must aspire for power in large numbers and also vote for the best amongst them, you're not going to have a country where things are all right. And that's very important to note in having this conversation.
All right.
Thank you once again. Chairman, I'm not sure who's up next. Let me check. Dr. Chidi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Stephen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, fine. Let's take Stephen, and then we'll come to Dr. Chidi. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate bringing me up, and it's a privilege to talk with Mr. Sowore. Okay, so we'll just go straight on, because my question is like a two-headed, but it leads to something else. So it's regarding one of your policies you said about legalizing marijuana, right? And we know that marijuana, I would like to know what aspect of the marijuana, what aspect of the marijuana are you, how do you intend to legalize it? One, and then number two, knowing about the field system we have and the vices that comes with marijuana, and one of them is driving under the influence, which might affect the road safety of the people. So how do you ensure that those kind of things do not occur, bearing in mind that Nigerian systems have been a failure, and the failure of the system, we've never had any working system in Nigeria since inception. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I wish that you did a little research on not maybe the word that you use is what scares people or scares you, marijuana. No. There's a plant known as cannabis, cannabis sativa. That's a botanical name. It's a whole plant. It has stems, it has branches, it has leaves, and it has roots. In fact, this plant is so magical that when you are farming it, it is low maintenance. It kills the weeds underneath it. It's that powerful. And the body of the stem of cannabis, there are different, strands of cannabis, by the way. The stem can be used to make clothes. All right? The leaves can be refined to make medicine. It has even been discovered that if you mix it with concrete, it makes the best cement, to build houses. It has so many uses that I wish that cannabis was what we were growing when we discovered oil. Would have been richer than this. But the global politics around it. But now, the part you are discussing about it is the THC part, the part that gets you high. By the way, I don't smoke weed. It's a very minute part of it, very small part of it. So the word has gone around. They have banned it. They have done all kinds of things to it. They have demonized the plant, and they come back to realize that it's a powerful plant, to the point that a refined bottle of cannabinoid oil, it's called cannabinoid oil. You can go and Google it, research it. A refined bottle competes in some parts of the world with a barrel of oil. So, and it has such great value medicinally. Let's even come to the smoking part of it. Since Nigeria existed, cannabis has been with us, marijuana. People have been smoking it. It is available in large quantities to people. Even when NDLA seizes marijuana, they don't burn it. They will go and burn sawdust and mix with a little bit of it. If you want to get real marijuana in Nigeria, the one that was, go and ask the NDLA guys, they have shops where they sell it. So it's all over it. It's all over the country already. But we are not harnessing the commercial quantity that can bring us wealth. That is why I asked for it to be legalized and processed and exported. The Nigerian government, according to their own records, they said they burn over 15 trillion naira of cannabis per year. Which foolish people does that in the world? 15 trillion naira of cannabis, and your budget is how many trillion? Maybe 25 trillion. So if you have 15 trillion, why would you set it on fire? Why not sell it and make that money and invest it somewhere? That's how to diversify your economy. Now, on the part of whether if people are smoking marijuana can be driving under the influence, marijuana is not even as dangerous as alcohol. And the Igbo people are bringing alcohol into this country of different people drink it and they drive under the influence. Most people that drive under the influence are people who drink alcohol. Go and check even globally. Not people who smoke marijuana. I don't smoke, so I can't say, but that part is law enforcement issue. You should just let police ensure that somebody who is high is not driving. If you catch the person, make the person suspend the license for 6 months and make them go through classes and training. By the time they come back, they will know not to smoke and drive, or be high and drive. You know that, those of you who live abroad. So legalizing it is to create the policy framework for you to for it to become an economic crop in your country, so that people can grow it and we can process it and you can make money. Canada introduced legalized marijuana in 2019 or so, they make $4 billion every year. $4 billion every year. Just one province. So what are we arguing about here? Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me, guys? Is this frozen? Hello? Okay, it seems like this is frozen. Anyways, hopefully this is back. Can you hear me, please? Okay, this looks like this is frozen.
We can't see him.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yes, connection. I can't see him anymore.
Can you see me now?
Someone said something. What's that?
Can you see me now? Can you hear me now?
What happened to the space? I think it's. He's here.
Okay, I think I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't
Yeah,
see
we can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Okay, let me see if I can turn on my camera. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see you.
All right. Okay. So I hope you were still hearing me when I was making the explanation about cannabis. Yeah. So that's where we are.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Let's bring in Dr. Chidi.
Thank you very much, host and other people here. Of course, this is my presidential candidate, so I'm not asking because I don't know, but just for the benefit of so many people who find it difficult to catch up with the pace at which things go in AAC or with Omoyele Shore, because the problem that you have, sir, is that you talk about things that are very futuristic. So I think maybe you should do more in. I think there should be a school where people come and they'll be taught. Listen to what you just said now about marijuana. For a lot of people, this is schoolwork. You know, going back to talk about cannabis. Even for me, I'm like, wow, that's a very clear distinction between cannabis and because every time you say Igbo, people just think about Igbo, but you just stripped it down. Now, what I want you to help us do is to help us understand. You've talked about providing houses for policemen, and it was a concept that a lot of people couldn't understand. If you could talk about how you wanted to do it so that you take them out of the barracks. And then the second one is the last time you talked about minimum wage when Nigeria was battling with paying workers 15,000, you proposed 100,000. Right now, you're not talking about 100,000, you're talking about something way beyond 100,000. People are still screaming. So if you can just talk about those two things, how you want to give housing to policemen, like so that they can own their own houses and no longer stay in the barracks, and then how you plan to pay the amount of money you want to pay workers in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you very much. With regards to public housing, it's not even applicable to police alone, it's applicable to all. And what I propose this time around is that we would have public housing, but by public housing is not going to be the modern day discriminatory public housing in Nigeria. When you hear about public housing in Nigeria, the Nigerian leaders are always building public houses for people they call low-income housing. So what I'm proposing is 1 million units of mixed income housing. What is mixed income housing? Is a housing estate system in which the people who are rich and poor can live together. It will have parks, it will have schools, it will have cinemas, and it would also be self-sufficient, that is green. It will have recycling of both wastes that can also be converted to generating energy, and so that the rich and the poor can live together. So if I'm rich and I need the services of somebody to be my cook or other people babysitter, they don't have to live in the other part of town where they can't find transportation to come to work. We live together so that our children play in the same park, and it becomes a social space for social cohesion as well. So, and these 1 million houses will be distributed all over the country. Nigeria hasn't built public housing in a long time. We have been building houses, or we've given the rich, the powerful, and the politically connected the right to build houses that they can't even stay in. You know, I live in Abuja. I've lived in Abuja now for close to 7 years by court order mostly, and there's a lot of mansions in Abuja that are not occupied. The rich people are always built in mansions that they don't stay in. In Asokoro area of Abuja alone, the public information we have is there are about 5,000 houses that are unoccupied. They just put the people they call Megad in front of the place, or police, and they don't stay there. In fact, some of those Megads sneak into those houses and sleep there at night. Some of them turn it to Airbnb. You sleep there, but you know you don't have rights. You are an occupant that have no right. So, but not in all cases. But public housing, 1 million units of public housing built across Nigeria will provide nothing less than 10 million jobs. You know, of quantity surveyors, of architects who are going to design them, of bricklayers, of artisans, masons, you know, all kinds of people will find jobs in those places just to build 1 million units of housing. And that is how you kickstart an economic system that is dead. You start reconstruction of unimaginable proportion. Of course, you know, they will say, oh, where are you going to get the money to do it? You know, my simple question is, where do the rich people who do nothing get money to build their mansions? We'll get the money from there. Well, it's bigger than that. It's a whole structured process of investment from within and outside the country to start the project, sustain it, and the project within a short period of time will pay for itself. It's an economic marvel that will be in the interest of everybody. The second question about minimum wage you asked, you know, whenever I propose a minimum wage, it's always futuristic. When we proposed a minimum wage of 100,000 in 2019, there was an uproar across the country, and people started calling me names. And why did they call me names? They said that I didn't pass economics. That's why I'm proposing minimum wage for Nigerians that will cause inflation. And that was 2019. At that time, they were paying 15,000 naira. Then, in the course of that conversation, the Nigerian government moved the minimum wage, I think, to 35,000 or thereabouts, while we were campaigning. And then, shortly after that, they moved it to 70,000. It hasn't caused inflation, by the way, and it's inadequate, grossly inadequate. The problem with Nigeria is that the people who are arguing against a minimum wage of 500,000 themselves don't live within their means. That is why, if they have to live within their means, if they have to live on their wages, they will be among the vanguard who is fighting for a 2 million naira minimum wage. But because they get money from other sources, they don't touch their salaries. Politicians don't touch their salaries. If politicians were living within their means, they will be part of they would have formed a labor movement for collective bargaining by now. The truth is that let's address inflation as a number one factor. The question you should ask yourself for even general economics, economics 101, ECON 101, is to ask, what is the cause of inflation in Nigeria? Your inflation is driven by cost. It's called cost push inflation. And what is cost push inflation? It's inflation that is caused by, high tariffs, weakness of your currency, a situation where you force producers or suppliers to transfer their costs to consumers. That is what is causing inflation in Nigeria. So Tinubu came, removed subsidy. Everything went up. If you could fill your tank before with 50,000 naira, now you have to spend 150,000 naira to fill your tank. So if you are earning minimum wage, what do? You can't. Because the cost of production, the cost of goods and services, transportation has been shifted to you. It's called cost. Everybody understands this. So to tackle even that inflation, let's assume inflation is the problem. To tackle that inflation, the people who are affected must be given a higher purchasing power to at least be able to cope. This one, you are not doing anybody a favor. You can't live on 70,000 naira wage as a minimum wage when your cost of living as a worker is 600,000. How do you do that? So if we can't address that, let's just do a law that anybody who is a worker in Nigeria is going to become a slave. So the other thing they will tell you, they will calculate the cost. They'll say, 500,000 naira, there are 1 million workers in Nigeria. It is this number of trillions, it will kill the economy. It's a lie. This is how it works. Wages, salaries. If I'm earning $100,000 in the US, how much gets to me? In the tax bracket that 100,000 in is in, it's $60,000. The government has already taken $40,000. So if you make that argument in the US that, if your wages is 100,000, the government wage bill will become 100,000 times 1 million people. It doesn't work like that. That means you don't know economics, because part of it will return to the government as tax, as deductions, all kinds of things. So the take home is not even there for you. Even the people that you are paying 70,000, most of them end up going home with 40,000 after you make all the deduction, because the government still takes back its own. So you cannot calculate it in a straitjacket way that because you are investing 500,000 naira minimum wage, so it's 500,000 times number of workers. No, it doesn't work like that. The other part, which is important, is to look at this holistically from the cost of living perspective. How much will a worker need in Nigeria to live? How much is food? If you are eating food, 1,000 naira per meal, 3 times a day, times 30 days, because whether you work or not, you have to eat. Already, you calculate that. Because that's 3,000 times 30. Does the minimum wage support that? What about transportation to and from work? Has it taken care of it? What about housing? Those are parameters you must take into consideration when we are talking about minimum wage. And there is no country in the world that pays a slave wage that's ever progressed. None. So don't let them deceive you. But you see, all these arguments you hear that how we're going to pay, they are coming from the people who are earning maximum wage. People who have taken the money that's meant for everybody for themselves. A senator in Nigeria earns 30 million naira. How did they arrive at that? It's because their own cost of living shows that 30 million naira is what is good enough for them. 30 million naira is less than what a person earning 70,000 naira will earn after they work for 35 years. It's completely a broken system that is dependent on inequality. And those people who are driving inequality, who are stealing the money, who are mismanaging and wasting funds that are meant for everybody, are the ones who are pushing out the argument that the minimum wage that can barely make you live is going to crash the economy. But they are stealing that is in huge amount. They're still in trillions now. Doesn't crash the economy. It doesn't cause inflation. That is my answer, Dr. Chidi. But I know that we have more as far as this is concerned. I'm ashamed to even be proposing 500,000 naira, which is $350 a month. What if there's a husband, wife, and kids? How do they even live off of that?
Thank you. So before I go to the next person, let me just recognize Doris who's with us, Doris Ogala who's with us, and kindly ask her to follow the search and follow us as we've been trying to reach out. So if she could kindly follow, that'd be great. So Mr. Shori, I have Ruthie here on stage. She's the one, my colleague I mentioned earlier, who found you but somewhat disingenuous. I won't mention the person that said you were cashing out because I think that person probably doesn't want the backlash. But Ruthie, look, let me give you the floor. Feel free to tell us why you think he's quote unquote disingenuous. Good.
Thank you, Solomon. Thank you very much, Mr. Shomori. I must say a very big thank you to Boma as well for always, our convener, for always making it possible for us to talk with you freely. And I must also say to you, thank you very much because you're one Nigerian that always honors invitations and you always stay till the end. So we're very happy speaking with you. So some of the reasons why I think, so disingenuous may be a strong word, Solomon. My concerns are this. So first of all, let me find out, are you contesting for elections for next year? Are you contesting for the presidency?
That's a decision that is public knowledge as far back as 3 weeks ago, I think about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so the answer is yes. Okay.
I expect you to know that as well, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So some of the things that I would like for you to respond to are one, what do you believe in? Are you a capitalist? Are you a socialist? Are you a liberalist? What do you believe in?
I'm a socialist, yes.
Sorry?
I'm a socialist, yes. I'm a social democrat.
Okay, you're a socialist.
Yes.
Oh, great. So if you're a socialist democrat, do you think that system will work in Nigeria, given, our multifaceted issues in Nigeria? You know that Nigeria is not like any country. Nigeria has so many layers.
So,
that is one.
But go ahead.
So what is the ideology of AAC? Because you kept
We just told you. I just told you. That's the ideology of the party.
Still the same ideology, right?
Yes. How could I be? How my ideology is different from that of the party?
Okay. Thank you. So if you're testing for elections next year,
yes.
We've seen quite a number of the presidential candidates and some of the things that they do. I don't want to mention your favorite person who you're always talking about, Mr. Peter Obi, how they went around the country in the last 3 years building bridges, doing things to ensure that, they bring everybody together so that it will be easy when they want to contest. What I can say that you did in the last 3 years was that I know that you did a lot of you brought a lot of people out of prison. That was really good. Like a lot of people who were unlawfully locked up. I know that you helped a lot in bringing them out of prison. That was, you do a lot of advocacy. We are aware of that. And you do a lot of, fighting for the people. But in terms of, actually garnering people to get ready for elections and showing that you want to contest, building those solid bridges for a president, I don't think you did any of that in the last 3 years. And so I don't know, you want to contest. Number one, your party is still quite unpopular. You may disagree with me, but I am more at the grassroots. Your party is still quite unpopular. And so I don't know how you intend to, ensure that your party is in all the 774 local governments in Nigeria in order to ensure that, you get the votes that you need in order to win as the president. So that's why I feel like, use the word disingenuous. I feel like you're playing with us. So you seem like you want to do this, but on the other hand, you seem like you're joking, like you're not really serious about it. So sometimes I don't know where to place you personally. Are you here, not there? Like, so the people that the young people, Nigerians are rallying towards, you now come out and say, oh no, even this one is not competent, even that one is not competent, this one is not. So who exactly is competent enough for Nigerians? If you say you, I would say that you have actually not built the bridges for us to actually take you seriously as a presidential candidate. Thank you.
Well, I'm grateful that this is what you call disingenuous. I think there must be different meaning for disingenuous, but I'm glad that you also acknowledge that I have been doing a lot.
No, Mr. Shore, I didn't
Wait
call you
now.
disingenuous. I said that.
Well, I was
No,
told
not at all.
I was told you said I was disingenuous and I was cashing out.
That's what Solomon. Solomon is looking for my trouble.
Okay. So, but I'm glad that you've spoken your mind, and I appreciate it. And one other thing I will appreciate is that we are even having conversations like this. I hope that one day every Nigerian would have a chance to be speaking with their presidential candidates, the so-called presidential candidates, the way I'm here on your show. All right? Even though typically no one of them can come here and stand for 5 minutes and survive what you're saying. So to now speak directly to who I am, right? My political ideology did not align with digging boreholes during election seasons. No. I don't even believe in boreholes. I'm always ashamed to see people digging boreholes. If they had run the country properly, there would be pipe-borne water in every home in Nigeria by now. Your favorite candidate once launched pipe, he was holding a pipe that was gushing out water when he was governor. To know that he didn't even make any progress, he's back to digging boreholes in the north because he heard the northerners are poor and you can throw peanuts at them. But today is not a conversation about your favorite candidates. It's a conversation between me and you. There are things we stand for, and my own niche is social justice. I believe that if people are unjustly imprisoned, they need to get out. Even if they are justly imprisoned, they deserve fair hearing. I believe that Nigerians can prosper if we free up our resources that are stolen by the stakeholders and have been taken out of the country. I didn't mention something earlier that the biggest cause of inflation is corruption in Nigeria, whether you agree with me or not. And I have been on the same position, consistently building platforms. You may not see it. You cannot be a political party in Nigeria movement without representation across board. If I want to shock you now, I'll tell you that in 2023, when we went to INEC to discuss representation of electoral polling unit agents, do you know that your so-called people did not even have up to us? They had to combine those of people who were not supporting them with their own to come and present to INEC. And they said it, and they were like, everybody was shocked that the party you said is not popular had more representation genuinely across the country. Of course, you have abandoned that party now and gone to another party, and your new party now where your friend is, you know what is going on there. Yeah, they are very popular for doing bad things. But again, the conversation is not about that. It's to answer your question directly that anybody, I'm a person with conviction. I'm a person who is thoughtful and consistent about what can fix Nigeria. I'm not the shady type of politician who goes to bed in white clothes and wake up with black. I don't call black white. I don't call white black. It is how I have structured myself ideologically from the university. And this same thing has taken me and promoted me in areas that I've succeeded across board since I've been engaging in activism. I'm more of an activist that I usually tell people that I'm the hardest part of my CV is calling myself a partisan politician, considering how I see politicians. So there is nothing in my life that is about cashing out. If I want to be cashing out, I know where to go, and you probably know where to go too, or you know where they go when they want to cash out. And I want to bring to your attention the fact that when I first ran in 2019 for presidency, we had some young Nigerians who were running. I was accused of the same thing. Where did Shore come from? He's not, he doesn't dress like a presidential candidate. People insulted me over my haircut. His haircut is Mohawk. Who barbs Mohawk? Who wants to be president? He doesn't dress like a president. He doesn't talk like a president. All the young people that were together at that time, they are all fizzled out. I'm probably the only one standing today. You all know their names. But I'm not here to talk down on anyone. And I hope that going forward, you too learn that there's nothing wrong with even you being ambitious and becoming a president. Just be consistent, be honest, and stand for what is right, even when it's not convenient. And if you see somebody you don't understand, go learn about them. The world is so easy to find out information about people now that sometimes what is disingenuous is to know what is true and stick with what is false. That is how I say it. But I hold nothing against you. I'm glad we're able to have this interaction today, and I hope we have more of this interaction. And most importantly, I hope we get to see others have the humility to come on platforms like this so that others can ask them questions. It's about the life of the Nigerian people. It's about their future. It's about making this country great. And anybody who has that interest, we have a duty to support ourselves to get there, and not to, out of just bitterness sometimes, just talk down on people or insult people about things that are not true. There's nothing that is true about me cashing. I've never, I'm bleeding for doing this, and I don't need to say that nobody sent me, but I'm bleeding financially for doing what I do. I'm not disingenuous. My position is clear. My position about energy is clear. If you don't know it, I'll be happy to tell you someday. My position about security is clear. In fact, there's none of these candidates, and I dare say it here, who can sit for how long I've been speaking, who can coherently present their own agenda, no matter how flawed, before you, and you will not leave this place feeling heavily disappointed, even in your favorites, because the ideas are here, and the implementation, they're right here on my palm. And the courage to do it is in my heart. No question about that. What is lacking is probably those of you who have not come to the realization that we can make this happen, and make this happen pretty soon and fast, and get out of the woodworks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shore. We're going to take one or two more before we start to wrap it up. Just before I come to you, opinion, just bear with me. Our next live show will be on the 14th of June, and we'll be joined by Radical Broad's Vival, who will be here to discuss whether or not democracy is delivered for Nigeria. So please kindly follow the moderators, follow the Surge platform, and join us for that show on the 14th of June. All right, Opinion Show, let's take your question. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, host, the convener, and then the guest, Mr. Shore. It is an honor and privilege for me to share this platform with you tonight because, I've been a follower because our ideology aligns together when it comes to revolution. I'm a revolutionist. But there is one thing that we want you to clarify to majority of this public out there who seems not to have the clarity on revolutionary, and then still yet you are vying for this presidential post. So which I believe that they don't really have the in-depth knowledge of what revolutionary is all about, the total restructuring. So which they feel like, you campaigning looking forward to assume the presidential post, and at the end of the day, you are still agitating for revolution. So, which seems to be confusing to them. So, I would really appreciate if you can break it down to them so that they can understand that revolutionary is a movement that has to do with a total change. We want the past and the present government to live. Let's have a new system entirely. How it's interwoven. So I want you to give them an insightful one so that they can, because we have a lot of political ignorance who seems not to understand the political ideologies. I'm not sure if everyone understands what political ideologies is all about or political school of thoughts that we've got. So I would really appreciate if you can. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you. The question you asked actually had been answered before you joined, I think. And I broke it down to the moderators when they asked what is revolution, because I think the confusion for a lot of people is if the revolution we're asking for is going to be a bloody revolution, and how many people will be killed. And I've made it very clear that it's not a bloody revolution. We don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to see anybody dead. We want a total change, and the change can happen in two ways, either by the ballot or at the barricades, or both. That has been explained before you came, and then we've broken it down to the pillars upon which the social change will come. That is self-sufficiency, all kinds of transitions that needs to happen. And we even broke it down to the level of discussing that we would change the Nigerian constitution. Fundamentally, we want to change even system of government or arms of government. For instance, we've been discussing that apart from changing the constitution, we would like to see that we cut costs. One of it is to get rid of the bicameral legislative system and make it a unicameral legislature, so that all these governors who have stolen money in their states will not come to Abuja again and just be sleeping at the National Assembly to be paid for jobs that are not done. It's a different time that we are pushing and asking for, and that the only way it can happen is for a revolutionary consciousness of the citizenry, for them to wake up and become different persons, have a different attitude towards the oppressors, and bid them goodbye from their life and herald a new order that will bring about the opportunities and the space and the bandwidth for great people to come make Nigeria a fantastic country to live in for our people and for the continent of Africa and the pride of the black race.
Okay, let's take So Spread and then we'll go to Tunde. So Spread, go ahead. Please fix your audio, your mic. Okay, whilst we wait for So Spread to rejoin, Tunde, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, the moderator, the organizer, and thank you, Mr. Shore, for this opportunity. I've been following you. I've been a believer of your ideology, and I believe that in no distance time, Nigerians will come to the reality of what we are losing by not supporting people like you with this kind of ideology, because as you can see, globally, the world is changing, but unfortunately, Africans are still retrogressing. Now, this is my question for you. As we can see, especially because of the surge on the insecurity, almost ravaged our country. And it's obvious to all of us that if you look at the heights of an average Nigerian, you can see fear, you can see frustration, you can see anger. Now, first of all, anybody that we want to be talking about election or presidency to Nigeria should be able to give them what I call assurance and reassurance. I can tell you, our people are scared. Our people are hopeless, they are helpless, and it seems that they are just living in hopelessness. So what can you do, or what do you have in plan to make sure that the hope is restored, the reassurance is given, so that many Nigerians can still believe in Nigeria once again? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. The best, I won't say the best, the better that could be done is to keep presenting myself and doing what I would do to or do for Nigerians if I get to office without being in office. And I've demonstrated that a lot to people, a lot. And I would say that it is difficult, and don't let anybody deceive you, to have faith in this particular country, Nigeria. The country that puts its people down at every opportunity, countries that allow its kids to be kidnapped and do nothing about it deliberately. It's not a country people can have faith in. But that's the reason why we're not starting a church. We are starting a new order. It's Nigerians that have to choose now to either continue on this perilous path of hopelessness, of peril, of death, disease, and complete situation of terrible life. It's a choice that can be made as well, and it's a choice some of us made. I mean, Nigerian. This is a choice we could have gotten rid of by just deciding once and for all that this is not how we want to live our lives. That we don't want to live and die, in insecurity, in a situation that any disease can kill you, even when they no longer exist anywhere else in the world. That poverty kills you or destroys your life, or that you don't get to your destination if you're driving or flying. Some of those choices are choices we can make now, and the opportunities have presented itself to us. I know how hard it is to believe when somebody is making promises to you as a politician, considering that generations and generations of your people have been wasted by them. But we have also lived exemplary life, if you can see, to show that we will stand up for you whenever we are given the opportunity, freely and voluntarily, to govern this country with our friends, brothers, sisters, who can't wait to change the course of history with us. So, in having faith, they have to put in work as well. That's what I'll say.
Thank you. Suspect, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. So, Mr. Showore, I would like to appreciate you, and commend you for your effort. Regarding the popular narrative in Nigeria that there are cabals who are powerful than the government or than any administration that might ascend in Nigerian political space. Do you have a philosophy that believes in that? And if you believe there are cabals who are powerful than the government, how will you manage the problem? How do you address the problem? And if you don't believe in that, then how would you make sure that narrative is eliminated in Nigeria so that it can promote public participation, trust in leadership in Nigeria, so that we can move this country forward? That's my first question. I can ask the second question also if you want me to ask now.
Well, I'll take the first question and hope that we let more people ask questions, because we also have a time frame within which we would love to wrap this up.
Yeah, we're only going to take that one.
Yeah.
So
if we can take one, and I'll say this, there is no country in the world that don't have cabals. Anywhere you have 3-4 people, there will be 2 who want to be more powerful than the rest. It's the nature of power. And cabals are not new to me. I know that. I fought these cabals my entire life. I fought the Babangida cabal, I fought the Abacha cabal, I fought the Abu Salami cabal, I fought Obasanjo cabal, we fought against Jonathan's cabal, we fought against even the Yaradua cabal run by his wife. we fought against Buhari's cabal, run by his uncle and cousins and his former secretary who used to be a recharge card seller and his attorney general. We are fighting the Tinubu cabal now, plenty of them. So there's nothing new about cabals. It's just nature of power. But what is the problem in Nigeria is that not enough people are fighting these cabals. But I know them, and I can guarantee you that they know me. That is why sometimes there's a lot of investment in this whole blackmail process. She already did this, she already. When you ask people, they just disappear because it's not true. Because they know that if there's anybody who can confront them, who can look them in the eyes, even without any state power, I give them a middle finger anywhere I find these cabals, and I confront them, and I ensure that they don't ride roughshod over me or anyone around me or anybody I can protect from them. So imagine that we now have presidential power. We have powers at different levels to fix our country and put the cabals to sleep. Easy peasy. And who else can do it? Someone who is not afraid of these cabals. That's the truth. And I'm not. I know them. I won't lie to you that there are no cabals. Plenty of cabals. You have cabals at the federal level, at the state, even your local government, there's a cabal there. But the cabal is as powerful as those who are resisting it. The moment you resist the cabal is gone.
Thank you, Mr. Shore. Let's go to Crown Fit, and then we'll take Chevron, who's also official. Crown Fit, you there?
Right here.
Oh, actually, just bear with me. I think David, I can see David just before. David, are you there? Okay, David, and then Crown Fit.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm one of those people that key into removing the cabals. I'm a member of the African National Congress, and this is my leader here. I'm young and I'm vibrant, and I've tied my vision to his vision to save this country. The only question I have for those who do not know, I have an idea, but for those who do not know, I read that what is your plan for continuity? Because what we see in Nigeria is that someone good comes in, the person cannot be there forever, he leaves, and then, they say that, he should have stayed, when he left, no plan for continuity. Even when someone raises the bar to the next person comes in, dumps him down totally. So I just want you to highlight to us what your plan for continuity is in the Nigerian context. Thank you.
Well, you've addressed that concretely by saying nobody will live forever. And anybody who is around me knows this. I devote a good chunk of my time to growing younger comrades, and ensuring that getting the necessary training they need to get, the little support we can give, and keep giving them confidence that they also can stand up and become somebody. Because, there's a little bit of issue, I would admit here, and I'll say it publicly here. Part of why you see a lot of young people not having ambition and aspirations is because a lot of them also lack self-confidence. And that's how the culture is in Nigeria. But, I love the younger generation they call Gen Z. They have confidence, but it has to be guided by ideology. But I think building a young group of persons who also understand that it's their job to take over, not to be spoon-fed, is very important. And I know there's a lot of ambitious people around us who can do a better job and who should do whatever they can, to position themselves to move on from where I am. I'm not going to be around forever. I keep warning you guys. And I don't know when that will be anyways, but I'm going to keep trying my best to build the next generation of leaders that will be that can do a fantastic job, even do a better job than I can ever do.
Touche. So we'll take the rest of the people on stage, and then we're going to close the show. So Crown Fit, I see you next, and then we have Shegun, who's official, and I understand we have one of Atiku's former cronies, who I think decamped to APC in the form of Abbey Governor, also on the stage. So we'll take those and then we'll close off. Crown Fit, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone on the panel. My sincere appreciation to Mr. Shuore at the moment. My question is going to be in two prongs, but I want you to pretty much indulge, because this is a very serious question that I haven't heard you speak about in recent times. Now, what is your plan when it comes to the clamor for self-actualization and the current constitution that binds the country? And the second part is, I understand you declared yourself to be a socialist. And as you are quite aware, because you're well-read and you're well-traveled, the countries around the world that are pretty much successful, that are taking the lead in terms of development and everything else that comes with it. And I will use China as an example. We know China is a socialist country, it's been a communist country, and now they're somewhat of a capitalist country. Are you willing to explore all of these dimensions in your approach and your mandate in terms of moving Nigeria forward? Or are you strictly going to be hell-bent on making Nigeria a socialist country? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Let me answer that last question. And even in socialism, there must be an understanding that the world is no longer where the idea was first muted. Our socialism is in bringing about an end to inequality, because the people who claim they are capitalists in Nigeria don't even have capital. They stole the capital of the people to become capitalists, to become wealthy. What we're saying is that, the inequality and the distribution of wealth must follow socialist rules. That what belongs to the people should be applied to the people first. And the rest is to understand that the world is a dynamic place. And in being dynamic, whatever makes life easy, whatever makes people prosper, whatever makes people healthy, will be explored and adopted. When I was nominated as the candidate of the party, I spoke about new economic models and systems. I spoke extensively about an economic model around, what we call the color-coded orange and yellow economy, which has to do with AI, has to do with entertainment, sports, intellectual property. You understand? We're not going to say because somebody is a musician, he can't have his money and can't spend it. No. We discussed about, transiting from black economy to a green economy. These are economic models today that would bring about prosperity. There's pink economy that discusses how to invest in women, giving them the right to own land property and explore the ingenuity of women, and also even special populations in our society. These are, stuff that are all going to be around self-sufficiency, the strategic development of our economic system to make everybody prosper. That's the goal. But the socialism part of it is income redistribution, wealth redistribution. There's no reason why a country is wealthy and the majority of its people live under $1 per day when they should actually be living comfortably. So that's to address your concern. That's not something to worry about at all.
Okay, let's take Sheldon. Are we there?
I know he had his first question, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to give everybody else the opportunity.
Okay.
To have a bit
Oh yeah. I think at this point we can do one more question so that we can wrap up. Like I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, if you don't mind, the show, let's take a couple more because, as I said, news reaching me is one of Atiku's former cronies is here.
That's fine. Maybe you can take him next.
Okay, so let's go to this former crony who's now APC. Then, Abby, go ahead. Floor's yours.
Good evening, good afternoon. Peace unto the house, peace unto Nigeria, peace unto the host, peace unto our special guest.
Thank you.
My question is easy. And I've asked Showore this question more than 6-7 years. I never get an answer. The first question is, 1.3 trillion was funded from Makoto Foundation
Ford Foundation about.
Did you say 1 point what? 1 point what?
$1.3 million.
Okay.
Was supported or funded through Sahara Reporters.
Yes.
Omidia Foundation about $400,000.
Yes.
Ford Foundation approximately about $400,000. Okay. And Congressman Scott Perry, the United States Congressman, said under oath on the floor of the House that majority of these USAID organizations, foundations, NGOs support terrorism like Boko Haram, like ISIS, ISWAP, Al-Shabaab in Somalia. And from public knowledge, under the Freedom of Information Act, we have seen that such organizations have funded your Sahara Reporters. That's the first question. And the second question is, you currently have an ongoing case about defamation against the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our leader.
Yes.
The question is, do you believe you champion for true democracy, true human rights, true freedom of speech? Can you educate your followers and Nigerians that there's a thin line between freedom of speech and defamation under the Data Protection Act, under the Cybercrime Act, and under the Nigerian Police Reform Act, September 2020, amended in 2024? So those are the two questions. Your organization receiving funding, which is quote and unquote a conduit of NGO funding insecurity and unrest through Revolution Now, etc., etc., and your defamation against a sitting president.
Yes.
Is that freedom of speech or freedom after speech has consequences? Thank you.
Well, thank you. The first question was grants that Sahara Reporters in the U.S. and also the Sahara Reporters Foundation in Nigeria took transparently and openly from foundations that are legitimate foundations in the U.S. is what you said has something to do with terrorism. I don't know, maybe you mix it up here. I was never funded by USAID, never applied to USAID. In fact, the reason you know that these funds were channeled to Sahara Reporters was because it is part of their requirements that whenever they fund any organization for any reason, the reason for which the grant was given, which Sahara Reporters applied for, it wasn't given. We had to apply for it, and competitively, will be stated on their website. The amount will be stated. That's how you found out, transparently. So I have never been involved with USAID, number one. Secondly, I have not been involved with any foundation, because you mentioned all of them. These are mostly individual foundations. The Mercator family runs the Mercator Foundation, has been on for years. Omidia is a foundation run by the guy who started eBay, or one of the founders of eBay, if you don't know. And Ford Foundation not only funds journalism, it funds several other things, including probably your education in Nigeria, because they give funds and grants to university as well. So those are to clear your doubt. Regarding your second question, because you said these questions you've asked me 7 years ago, I've never come across you before, asked this question, but now that you've asked, I've answered you. But with regards to President Tinubu and my case against him, even though we are still in court, yes, it is not defamation. No. They brought the case against me through the DSS that I called him a criminal. And I said to them, and we're in court and this is public record, that it is not defamation, that I want to prove it, that he's a criminal. And the judge said, no, I cannot interrogate, I'm interrogating the DSS witness too much. The judge got upset and asked my lawyer to come and kneel down in open court. That's never happened before, because he didn't want us to prove that Tinubu is a criminal, and I want to prove it. And there's no crime in stating a fact. Even in defamation proceedings, you can plead justification if you have evidence. And we have started presenting evidence, including presenting video evidence of Reno Mokri, who is now an ambassador to the Nigerian government. I think he was sent to Mexico, you know, about what he said and what he found. And they have already been admitted. And we wanted to go to the full hog of the trial, but the judge doesn't want us to do that. So we have asked the chief judge of the federation to change the judge and apply to the judge to recuse himself, so that if they are willing to hear the truth, we will tell them the truth. You know, I'm not the kind of person that is flippant. Are you getting my point? I'm not flippant. I'm the kind of person, when I say something, I will stand by it. So, is your president, that's your problem. But it doesn't stop me from expressing what I know to be truthful about him. He's your president who was also selling heroin in Chicago, and money was seized from him as a result, and he did a plea and let go. That does not detract from the fact that he committed the crime, aside from other crimes that we know of. So the question is what somebody just asked here: is Tinubu not a criminal? And I would like to hear your answer. Thank you.
Look, I must commend you, Mr. Showe, for giving people the opportunity to I guess, air their view.
He wants to hear my answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the opportunity to respond, and then we're gonna round up. So go ahead, Abby, respond, and then.
All right. So the answer is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like you said, it's his innocent, you're proven guilty. Just the same way Mr. Showe is innocent, you're proven guilty under the law. 2, Forward Foundation, Makoto Foundation has been accused by former President Zuma, former President of South Africa, President Kenyatta, former President of Kenya, of facilitating revolution, of funding insecurity and domestic terrorism through uprising, which you receive grants. And these are information known in the public.
You are mixing it together, and I think that's what you came here to do. But that's fine. What I'm telling you is that how did you find out that there's grants? It's because there was a grant which was given, by the way, in I think the first was 2009, and then up to 2015, and subsequently after. I don't run Sahara Reporters anymore. I resigned from active management of the platform, but I founded it. I'm not in any way, so your position is that they said they are funding insurrection and terrorism in Kenya, and I've not seen it anywhere that they did. But if that is true, well, that's not what I applied for. I applied for journalism grants, and I've told you that your universities applied to Ford Foundation to get grants to build classrooms. They applied for Macarthur Foundation. Macarthur Foundation is still in Nigeria. They have an office here in Abuja. If they are doing terrorism, I would imagine they would have closed down the offices. So, but I know the argument you're trying to make is that somehow I'm involved in terrorism. Forget about it. The only kind of terrorism I engage in is terrorizing oppressors. That one I'll admit to.
Okay, look, thank you for allowing him to I guess, share that response. As I said, the news reaching me is that this is a former Atiku crony who then sort of decamped ABC.
Is Atiku crony, and did he not know when they were funneling bribes to Atiku in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, I'm not sure he'd want to respond.
He had left that day.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that another time, because I know the house he bought with stolen money through bribery in him and his now estranged wife Jennifer. I went to the house in Potomac, so those are the things we'll be talking about. That money.
Yeah, I'm not sure Abby's going to be able to respond to that with anything substantial. So look,
no problem.
Let me just bring everything to a close. Mr. Sheriff, first and foremost, I thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Please, if there's any way that you think we can support in terms of the progress of Nigeria, any meaningful actions you think those of us who are here listening today can take, when we sort of give you the floor to round up, please do let us know. Can I ask the audience to follow both Surge accounts, Please follow. Obviously, follow Mr. Shore, follow myself, and follow my co-moderator Chioma. And we look forward to having Mr. Shore again. So before we close, let me just go back to him to share his kind of closing thoughts, and then we'll round up.
Well, thank you very much, Solomon. Thank you, Chioma. Thank you, the Surge, for putting this together. And thanks, thank all the people who came on and asked questions, to who couldn't make it to ask questions, but who were giving very great commentary in the commentary box. Thank you so much, Solomon. I do hope you continue to do this. You have, your voice is just powerful, and I think the country needs more of that in asking, hard questions, especially now that we are going into elections. So I asking Nigerians not to give up, not to lose faith, but also to put in a lot of work. We're close. If only we can all join hands and just push these guys out and have a brand new country to ourselves and for a generation and generations yet unborn. Thank you so much for having me again. And thank you, Abe, for coming today. We hope to talk more about these issues. Appreciate your time.
All right, it's been a pleasure. Guys, please, again, once again, follow the house and follow all the mods. The next show we'll be having GRV.